Who's the mastermind behind Elk Finance? Well, we've got just the guy. His name is Baal, and he's our CEO at Elk Finance. So stick around to hear his perspective. So we've got Baal here, the head of development, our CTO and CEO, and welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So jumping right into the questions, what do you think about the future of crypto and specifically DeFi is going to be?
Right. So it seems to be really two questions there, right? So we need to separate crypto and DeFi. Actually, it would be three if you had blockchain technology also in the mix.
Oh yeah.
So maybe let's go with that. Like, what's the future of each of these going to be? All right. Blockchains. I mean, basically distributed ledger technology. Or blockchains have now, entered the vernacular, and we're seeing more and more interest in various industries about integrating these technologies in somewhere in their business, right? And we're in a world which is rapidly becoming software and data centric, and this is really not surprising. But I think it's also important to remember that blockchain is not the solution to everything, right? So probably 80% of the applications that people are looking to use blockchain for don't actually really need a blockchain. So we're really seeing a lot of marketing influence there. And ultimately, I think blockchains are and they'll remain what they're meant to be, which is a way for participants over the internet to basically maintain an immutable append-only log of events. Whatever those events are, could be transactions, could be, anything really. And as such, I think we've yet to see more applications of blockchains that are beyond cryptocurrencies. But I'm sure it's just a matter of time before we do. So then you've got crypto or cryptocurrencies. In a way, you could argue they're the killer application for blockchains. I think clearly we're heading towards mass adoption, but there's probably still a few hurdles that need to be, really solved. So regulatory is probably the main one, right? There are, of course, others. There is, technological. There are, just how you can let users actually use it conveniently and pay with them, anywhere. How you avoid fragmentation and things like that. So I believe we're going to see more variety in cryptocurrencies, and we're potentially going to be seeing, a lot of countries or central banks issuing their own digital currencies. We also have yet to see a proper stablecoin design, right? Mm-hmm. And, I think at this point, they have a bright future. Clearly, I think regulators are not looking to kill cryptocurrencies at all. But I think, we have some, let's say, distance to travel before we can actually really see mass adoption.
Right.
And then there's DeFi, right? Or decentralized finance. And I think that's a bit, the big unknown, right? So, of course, you can, you can hear Web3 and DeFi enthusiasts, tell you that, all about it. Like, and it's a very attractive idea, right? It's basically, replace the traditional financial system, which is completely broken, and which is completely controlled by the big banks and big government and whatnot, and make it into something which is a lot more transparent, open source, where you and me, random dudes on the internet can just go and manage our own money. We don't have to rely on, all these centralized and sort of, I want to say, shady sometimes, actors that we don't quite know whether we can trust them, right? So I think basically DeFi, this is the future essentially that Web3 believers have in mind, but it's probably somewhat of a utopia, right? Mm-hmm. So at least so far, what we've seen is that, decentralization can be seriously abused by marketing. We've seen the shortcomings of DAOs. We've seen that some projects, I don't want to cite any names, but you can look at the stablecoin that recently collapsed. These projects were just too big to fail, and they were actually horribly mismanaged. And actually, just that, like everyone I talk to in DeFi, they hate the US dollar, right? They don't want to be part of that system. They all call it broken. But here we are with stablecoins, which are, for the vast majority of them, or like even all of them, they're denominated in USD, right? And they have actually a huge fraction of the total crypto market cap. So actually, if we're not careful, the future will basically be that, we have somewhat centralized DAOs, which will be controlled by VCs and big banks. And that's just gonna, these DAOs are just gonna hold directly or indirectly in their treasury US government bonds, right? So much really for replacing the traditional system. But again, I might be painting too bleak a picture here. So I think overall we're very early and it remains to be seen. But I would say overall we're probably going to see a kind of hybrid rather than really a new revolutionary financial system.
Yeah, something old system, new system, centralized, decentralized, and working together for sure. So moving on to Elk and the ElkNet. What, we hear about all of these bridge hacks and these exploits, and it's coming out of DeFi, and it's usually a bridge. So within that, what makes Elk Finance's solution, the ElkNet, more secure than a lot of existing solutions in decentralized finance?
Right. So I think, first of all, it's important to remember that, absolute security is impossible. So nothing can be 100% secure. Now, bridges do tend to get a bad rap. I think it's important to take a step back here. So yes, there have been a lot of hacks, which sucks, obviously. And yes, the amount of value lost ranges, as far as I know, in the billions, right? Low single digit $1 billion, right? But you also want to put that in the proper context, right? So we're talking about losses which are way, way, way lower, even though it's billions, right? They're way lower than the volumes that these bridges have been processing so far. I mean, I don't have numbers there, but, I don't want to say something stupid, but it's pretty, it's pretty significant, right? It's like definitely 2 to 3 orders of magnitude. If you look close enough, really, most of the hacks, they really had nothing to do with fundamental technological risk, which you have in bridges, which is a double spend, right? So I'm basically gonna, make the bridge, sort of trick the bridge into giving me the funds without really giving it the funds, right? And this was the big thing back when centralized exchanges were popular in the previous, crypto bull run, right? But actually, all the hacks, or like most of the hacks to bridges, they really had nothing to do with that. They had to do with social engineering. They had to do with poor operations, misunderstanding how the code works, not using best practices, and so on. And so I think as the industry matures, it's very likely that these issues will start to slowly fade away. Right? Now, what are we doing at Elk? So what is different at Elk? Well, fundamentally, we're not doing much, right? But we're doing a few things, right? So we're putting a lot of emphasis on operational security and best practices. Now, the ElkNet itself is state-of-the-art code, which does not really borrow or use anything or any piece of code or any libraries that we don't understand. And this is really important because if you look again in the, let's say, past 6 months, this has been a problem for a couple of bridges, right? This is one thing. We're also using a very simple bridging approach. Right? We're not doing something which is really very complicated, or we're not using unproven technology, no matter how fancy, right? So you could say it's very simple, but it's actually as simple as needed, but it's not too simple, right? And that actually makes it easy to avoid problems. And if there are problems, it makes it a lot easier to find them, right? Now, on top of that, we added a bunch of built-in fail-safe or circuit breakers into the ElkNet that are going to prevent a number of undesirable scenarios from occurring, right? Because if basically they occur, then everything will just stop, and then well, it's not great because it stopped, but at least the exploit doesn't go further, right?
Right.
And finally, we are aware that 100% security is impossible to achieve. So we've actually recently voted to have an exploit insurance fund, which we're going to use to protect users and projects that may fall victim to hacks that may involve the ElkNet in the future, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is very important for us because we're not just a bridge, actually, right? Unlike most of these hacks, we're not actually just aiming to be a bridge. We're actually a bridge infrastructure provider, right, which aims to let any project become cross-chain using us, right? So in a way, we are taking a lot more responsibility than than we would like to.
For sure.
That we have to take that responsibility, and
and have that responsibility to make it as secure as possible. So, and then fast, you know, and usable. So all of those things together, I think we're working on that. And I really appreciate you answering the questions. It's really awesome to chat with you. If, you know, people want to learn more, where do they go? You know, they want to get in touch with you. Where do they go?
Right. So I think the first place to go to is elk.finance, which is our website. From there, you'll be able to, link into the docs, which are pretty extensive. You'll be able to use our decentralized application and bridge your own tokens, which I guess, might be something you would want to do. You'll be able to buy Elk, of course, if you choose to. You'll be able to, find all our social links, which include Medium, Twitter, Discord, and so on. And if you're interested in me personally, so my Twitter is @Baal314Elk. Just one, no spaces, no dashes, no nothing. So Baal314Elk. Otherwise, I'm happy to, just join our Telegram or our Discord, and I'm happy to chat with people. I think we regularly organize AMAs, and we have a lot of these interactions with members of our community. So please feel free to join.
So once again, thanks, Baal. I appreciate you answering all the questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the panel.
It's my pleasure, and looking forward to the panel.